I am going to introduce you to the Swiss Army knife of image processing tools. It's an application that I've been using for years and years and years. It is not an open source application, but it is a free to use, free for non-commercial use. So if you're using it for your personal use, it's free of charge. There'll be a link to it in the show notes so you can download it, install it. It's another application that runs on Windows, MacOS, Linux. So I always try to find applications that will run on multiple operating systems. So, if Linux is my primary operating system, if for some reason I have to use Windows, I like to be able to use the exact same applications that I'm used to using. You know what I mean? So I love these fantastic multi-platform applications. This application will resize images, you can change the DPI on it, you can scale it, you can batch process images, convert them from one format to another. You can batch process just about everything. So you can also just, if you want to convert just a single file, you can open the file and just go save as and tell it what format you want to save it to. So I have it open right now and I want to show you. I've got 3 raw images. This application is the easiest application I know of for converting raw image files to a different format. Because raw image files are, they're a format all unto themselves. You know what I mean? So let me bring up my file manager here and I'll show you the folder that I'm in. I've got 3 different images here. They're 5184 by 3456. They're all in raw image format. The .cr2 is Canon raw image format version 2. So these are all raw images, and we'll take a look at them real quick. And these are just 3 pictures of a little RC plane that I took. I want to show you that all 3 of those files are contained in the CR2 folder. I'm going to batch convert all 3 of those files to a PNG. And I'm going to drop them in this PNG folder. So I'm going to open this up so you can see there's absolutely no files in there at the moment. Alright, so let me close out my file manager. Okay, so to batch process these raw image files into PNG files, like I said, you can convert them into whatever format you want to convert them into. But if you go up to Tools and you go into Batch Convert, this will bring up your window. Now you can either add files, individual files, or you can add a folder. Well, since I've got my raw image files in their own little folder, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to say add folder. So we will navigate to our tutorial folder here for XnView, and then I'm going to tell it I want to use my CR2 folder here that contains my 3 raw image files. Okay, so I've got the folder selected. I'll just say choose, and it's brought up all 3 of the image files. So you can see all 3 of them there, and it displays them just fine. I mean, this application can display more image file formats than I think any single application that I've seen. It can open up multimedia files too, so you can view various types of video files, audio video files. You can play audio files, view video files with it, load up just about any type of image file you're ever going to deal with. Alright, so I'm going to say go over to Actions. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set the DPI for 100 by 100 because my Canon, it's an older camera. It takes really good still photos, but it's an older camera. And so the images are only around 72 DPI, at that resolution. So I like converting those to 100 DPI on the X and the Y axis to match my screen resolution on my computer. 100 DPI is a good setting for digital displays. Alright, so now I'm going to go to the Output tab right here, and You also right here when you see the DPI, I can either enable it or disable it. I don't have to remove this action that I've already got it set up here. You can add several different actions, and it's only going to perform the actions you tell it to. So I'm going to tell it I want this action enabled, and in a future tutorial we'll go over a lot of features of this application so that you'll be able to use all the features of this application that I use. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go to the output, and you have an option of going ahead and converting those into the source folder, but I already have a PNG folder set up for it. So I'm going to select folder, and I'm going to go over here where you see these three little dots. This is your folder selector. So I'm going to click that and bring it up. And then I'm going to go over to TinkerzLab, bids, tutorials, where we were before, XnView, and then I'm going to select my PNG folder. The folder that we looked at earlier that was completely empty of files. So I'm going to choose that. Now you've got a bunch of options down here. If an output file already exists, you can select to skip it, to ask, to replace it. I always tell it to rename it. Rename the file that it's outputting if the file already exists. I never want it to overwrite a file. So keep folder structure, keep parent folder structure. I'm dictating to it what folder I want it to drop it in, so I'm not going to select those. I want to keep the original date and time attributes on it. I do not want to preserve the extension because when it converts the file, it's going to use a different extension. All right, I want to preserve the metadata, so all the image data that's in there, the date that it was taken, the shutter speed, the exposure, all that information I want it to preserve. I also want it to preserve the color profile of the raw image file. I do not want it to delete the original. I never select it to delete the original until I have inspected the converted image files. You don't want to lose your source material if something bad goes wrong. You can also speed the batch processing up greatly if you have multi-core CPU on your system. I do. My system has 8 cores, so I'm going to tell it to use multiple CPU cores so it can divide up those jobs to different CPU cores so that it can process all of it at the same time. 8 cores can process 8 files at the same time. All right, and I'm not going to select any of these other options right here. All right, so now we're ready to convert. Oh, right here on the format, I've got PNG format selected, and in the settings, I'm telling it compression level. I'm going to go ahead and boost that up to compression level 9, which is the highest compression level. PNG is a lossless format, so you can select the highest compression level to make the file size smaller, but you're not going to lose any clarity on the image. So I've got it set for keeping the EXIF information, which is all that information I was telling you about, the picture data, the XMP data, and the ICC profile, which is the color profile. So I'm telling it I want to keep all that. These are not interlaced images, so I'm not going to select interlaced. Okay, so now we are ready to go ahead and select batch process. So here we go. I'm going to select OK. And convert down here. Select convert. And it'll show you the batch conversion in progress in this little log output window. Okay, now we're finished. All right, so I'm going to close that out. I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go back over to my file manager. Okay, so, and now you can see all 3 images in the PNG file, right? In the PNG folder. So now if I bring them up, watch how good these look. Don't these look just as good as the original files? I mean, it got the lighting correct. It got the color correct. It's going to save all the picture data information. It's the best, quickest way that I have found for converting raw image file formats to whatever image format you want to convert them to. So now these files are ready for me to process them again. To go in and correct the lighting, because these files are exactly like the originals, just in a different format that you can bring into GIMP and edit to your heart's content. So stay tuned. I'll be publishing more tutorials on XnView. Like I said, there's a link to it in the show notes where you can download it, test it out. Go ahead and test out batch processing like we just went through. It doesn't have to be a raw image format. It could be anything. It could be PNG files to JPEG, JPEG to PNG, whatever format you want to start with to whatever format you want to end with. Okay, and take a look at all the image formats that it supports. Excellent, excellent Swiss Army knife of image processing tools. That's a wrap on this episode, and I will see you in the next episode.